Good afternoon. My name is Andrea, and I will be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to the CA APM Community Webcast conference call. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question-and-answer session. If you would like to ask a question during this time, simply press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, press the pound key. I would like to now turn the call over to your host, Mr. Keith Palmer. You may begin your conference.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for dialing in. Today is APM Global User Community Webcast. My name is Keith Palmer. I'm the Vice President of the APM Global User Community. I'm accompanied today by our President, Manish Parikh, and our CA Community Manager, Mary Greening. This webcast is being recorded and will be posted on the community archives. If you have any questions during the presentation, please ask in the QA panel in the WebEx, not in the chat window. The presentation will take about 40-45 minutes, and then there will be an open mic for community members to openly ask questions. We appreciate all the activity on the message boards. Thank you guys all for your participation. First, before we get started here, we have a few quick product updates from Mark Chenet. And then today's topic will be covering reviewing best practices for data extraction from APM. Steve Meller, CEO of Business Service Assurance, will be presenting. Again, if you have any questions, please ask in the QA panel in the WebEx. Steve will answer your questions at the end of the session. Mark, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thanks, Keith. Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Chenet. I'm an APM product manager for CA. I just wanted to, as part of our transparency, right, I want to be able to take this opportunity to talk about some of the upcoming service packs and our just latest GA release for our 955 release to make sure that our community, our members, customers are all aware of some of these upcoming changes. So number 1 is just wanted to talk about a few issues that have been brought up in our 9.5 release and as part of our 955 real-world test. Thanks again for our customers that have participated in the real-world test. So 952 Service Pack is targeted for the end of January. Some of the things that will be included as part of 952 is our ABA Application Behavior Analytics package that will be included, packaged with our EM. As well as from a workstation standpoint, there's 2 issues that have been resolved. One of them is the proxy dialog issue that was introduced in the 950 and 951 release, which I'll talk about in the next slide. And the Java security model patches. So there's as part of the introduction of Java 5 update 5, 6, 65, 7, 45, and 751. There's been a significant change in the security model, which has impacted the workstation delivered either through JNLP. So certainly something that you will want to pick up as part of the 952 service pack. So just more details. So the workstation proxy is really just a mishap that was introduced in 950 around a public internet check. So if your desktop users don't have public internet, there's a proxy dialog that comes up and has a delayed client connection that impacts end user experience. So that will be fixed in 952. There is a hotfix available from support if you want to request it earlier. From a security model standpoint, as introduced by Java, this will impact any 9.1.x customer and above. This will be fixed as part of our 952 release. There is a technical advisory that has been issued around this. So you can also find this technical advisory posted on CA Support Online if you need more information. This technical advisory also provides different options on how you can get around this issue, the security check being made by Java. The last issue that I want to bring up is the SQL monitoring for the application threads hang. So this is something that seems to only be impacting the IBM JVM. Seems to be more relevant in the 9.5, 9.51 releases that we've tested. Again, we're looking at targeting this in 9.53, and there is a hot fix available from support. Simply open a support ticket for this, and you can get this hot fix for this issue. So this mainly impacts users that have high volume of SQL transactions, again, as I mentioned, using the IBM JVM. And last but not least, what I want to end on is the release, the 955 GA announcement. We have now just released our Interscope agents for natively supporting Java 7 JVMs. We also have certified WebSphere application server 855. As part of that continuous compatibility, we support 955 agents against any previous 95X EMs, so it is backwards compatible. So certainly something that hopefully any of our WebSphere customers or anyone wanting to take advantage of a native profiling of Java 7 environments, that is now available, and it's for download on our CA Support Online download center. A few things to note about this: this does not include any .NET agents. This is really specific to Java 7, and this doesn't support as well the legacy mode tracers. This will come up in our next follow-up release. So what this means from a limitation standpoint is that you can't use the legacy modes for the IBM Kix transaction gateway, the WebSphere application server for ZOS, the IBM WebSphere portal, CA SiteMinder, and we don't support the cross-enterprise application performance management in this release. And this ends the update from a product management standpoint. Thank you for the time. And Steve, making you the presenter, let's go ahead and hand this over to Steve. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mark. So now we need to switch the presentation back to the other one. So like that. Okay. Hi, this is Steve Meller. Today we'll be talking about reporting and data extraction from CA APM. The extent of reporting in CA APM is is historically the same as it was year over year. There are two main components: of course, the Interscope Smart Store queries and the CEM or the APM queries, and now today, with APM being expanded to include ADA, we also have the ADA backend as well. The agenda is going to cover the delivered reporting, some extended capabilities with SharePoint reporting that I'll demonstrate, and different extract methods that are relevant to the tools that we have at hand. Then I'll look at APM 951 briefly to show some capabilities there. Historically, this is what we worked with in APM dashboards. We logged into the FAT client, to the thick client, the Java thick client, the workstation client, built a dashboard using images, some Visio images, maybe some dynamic components that are delivered by the UI. There's a lot of rich functionality in the delivery. The problem becomes then we want to take that and we want to share that information with others in the organization. So the challenge then is, okay, well, we could do screenshots, but that's not user enablement, right? Then we become the bottleneck. So ideally, we find ways to share this information so that other people in the organization can get value out of it. So to that end, in prior releases, the WebView component was capable of doing console views, but we all recognize the challenges that Mark Chenet's team resolved in the newest release by getting rid of Silverlight. So we use, so other than WebView, we had reporting components, right? So we would go into the APM workstation and build a report. So this is, starting out with a report template. Building a report involved filling out this form, right? Creating report components by filling out the form about what the graphics were going to be and how you were going to build them. Multiple levels of the form. So, lots of different options, positioning options, size options. It's all about filling out this form, which is doable, right? And then you end up with a report that you can distribute, right? So, then the report, kind of ends up looking something like that. So that's okay, but not stellar, right? We can all agree with that. It's got all the salient details, right? I've got a graph and I've got some description around it, and that's fine, and I can automate that, and that's fine, but still not the really. It still doesn't look as good as this other graph, as this dashboard back here, right? Those are substantially different. So not quite in the game we'd like to be. So how do we get to decent reporting? So one way to look at reporting is to go to other media. So we might look at reporting out of CEM. The legacy views in CEM kind of look like this. This view is actually pretty rich, right? It's got a lot of good information on it. It's got the graphics as well as the grid values. That's pretty good. When we generate a report out of CEM, it largely looks like this, right? So the delivered PDF reports come out, and they, don't have the same pizzazz that the online version does. So one solution is to export the data out of APM, out of Intrascope, out of SmartStore in one fashion, and the CEM Oracle DB in another, the APM DB in another, and import it into a environment where you can use SharePoint reporting. So what you end up with is something that looks like this, right? It is this particular slide is about running an agent on CA's Clarity application. What we see in this slide is sort of rather rich presentation, and as we know, it's consumable by everyone in the organization, and all the authorizations around who can see what and how they can see it is all managed by your user management team. So really an easier way to consume that information. So one would have to ask, how do you do that, right? So let me take a moment to show you how you do that. I've got a view right here. So this is the live view showing the same thing we were looking at a moment ago. The Clarity portlets, depending on how we slice and dice it, can have different views and different capabilities, right? It comes with the graphics, right? And I should point out, this is all really out-of-the-box SharePoint functionality. What our team did was we built the integration. So we run an integration that connects to the two systems and loads the integration. So I can end up with my data source being the Intrascope data source, right? And can you all not see? Oh, I didn't do the. I'm sorry, I didn't do the screen share. I flipped Okay. Thought I was sharing, but I'm not. So I need to share my screen. on this page. It helps to have people in the room who are actually watching the show. There, okay. So, so what I was doing was showing the integration. So this tool allows me to take the query out of Introscope, and then push it into my data target, which in this case is SQL Server, right? So, if my query is select star from metric data where agent equal Tomcat and and blah blah blah, I've also got obviously timestamp information in here, and then the period. So those of you who've worked with the Introscope JDBC before will recognize that query. So then that guy loads SQL Server. I can run a post-processing cube build on the result, and that gets me to the view that we saw in the slide, where I've got this rich view of COP portfolio dashboard. Those you Clarity guys would know what that is. And I can do all the sort of out-of-the-box drill down things. I can drill down. Oops. I can do the drill downs and show onlys and deep composition trees and what have you to get the added value that the SharePoint, the cube, provided in my extract. So really what we end up with is a very reasonable way to create, publish, and consume the data out of APM. And obviously, if I can query the JDBC component to get a cube, I can certainly query the Oracle component, the APMDB backend, in order to add the defect functionality into this. So really a much nicer view. So not only could you use SharePoint, obviously, but other tools as well. So if you guys are fans of business objects, right? Export your data into business objects to get the same kind of views. So if it's all about exporting and data migration, then let's see, go back to the slide. So hopefully you're seeing the slide again. So we're talking then about how do you do the data extracts? Well, our organization has a product that that does that for us. It is a integration product. But if you're short of that, the tried and true methods are command line workstation, direct JDBC queries, and data exports. So the CLW workstation query looks kind of like this, right? The Java jar, the Java jar component, CLW workstation.jar, is delivered with the APM product. So, and the query set is quite broad, but within any given query, it's somewhat narrow. In other words, our query to get historical data from agents matching this and metrics matching that, between this and that, with frequency of that and that is a fixed format for those of you who've done that before. And we don't have a lot of flexibility in the time formats, or so you have to be really, really precise about your format, which, so how different is that from SQL or anything else? But the output of the CLW query is shown below. You see the different column headings and then the different values that come along with it. Obviously, a CLW output is in a comma-separated format, so what we'd like to be able to do is upload that into some tool to be able to for example, upload it into Excel to build queries off of it. That works most of the time. Obviously, for those of you who've done the comma separated variable imports, that if there's a comma embedded in one of the strings, that becomes a challenge. So there are good days and bad days. So CLW is a very flexible tool, provides you easy reporting to everything you really want up to a point, and but of course has its challenges like everything else does. The JDBC queries are similar to CLW in that you have a broad range of queries that bring you back data. You can issue different queries to the APM DB. Again, the syntax is kind of limited, but the nice thing about the JDBC component is that you can use off-the-shelf query tools to enhance the capability. In my case, I was using Squirrel SQL Client. I imported the driver into that, so I can go back to screen sharing momentarily. Go back to share my desktop. And I can run Squirrel SQL Client. So I've imported this into Squirrel. I've also done it into Oracle SQL Developer, and because all of those guys just take on the Interscope JDBC component, and they import the JDBC component, and then I can run queries, to my heart's content, right? So the similar sorts of select star from metric data or agent equals Tomcat and metric equals GC and timestamp, blah, 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 right? So those are the same queries that we saw in the, those are the same query that we saw here, right? The value of that is really quite huge because we can bypass the Interscope workstation to bring back data and build our own queries, build reports, build views, build graphics by bringing the data into a SQL tool, and then of course from there we all know how to build reports out of that. That's great. It's a manual capability. Some of the challenges are that we have in doing any of these kinds of manual data migrations is that some of the things that don't come over are the alert settings, alert thresholds from the management modules. Those are stored separately in the XML of the management module jar. And what we'd like to do is build an integrated report with the alert thresholds in it. But in order to do that, of course, you'd have to write an XPath query on the management module jar to extract the alert, and then you would have to write the mapping to get that metric grouping to match the metrics that we've queried here out of the Smart Store. So a bit of a challenge, but those are the kinds of things that are valuable to build once, right? Build it once, and then you can reuse it. And so the integration, having capabilities like integration tools isn't such a bad thing. So what we've done is we've talked about the different capabilities of APM reporting. We talked about using CLW, the out-of-the-box JDBC, the out-of-the-box capability of of running command line queries. We talked about JDBC reporting that gives us the ability to use SQL query tools, so we could tie together information not only out of SmartStore but also out of the also out of APM DB backends, whether it be Postgres or Oracle. Those are all sort of manually manipulated solutions, right? The SharePoint solution is has a little bit of an advantage, but still is somewhat problematic. Another good solution is to use CA's new WebView interface. So in the new WebView interface, going back to sharing, in the new WebView interface, you know, there's a very rich environment for capturing and displaying information that that then we can share with our organization's users. So this is, you know, this is a live view of some particular application using the new WebView, the 951 WebView, and we get that, you know, okay, this looks pretty good, right? This is the kind of thing that we'd like to be able to share with people. It's snappy, it's responsive. We don't get great big ugly Silverlight errors. So this is really good. And, you know, we have access to be able to see the management module alerting in the same view. So if, you know, if your end user's wondering about how those thresholds look, because, of course, you know, the persistence around a particular threshold doesn't show up in the graphics, right? So you know what I'm talking about, how you can define an alert threshold requiring it to have a certain persistence in time before it will trigger. That's obviously not visible in the graph, but you know, in the text, then you could see, well, in this case there isn't one, but if you had to find one, that would be there. So being able to share this with end users is huge, and gives them the self-empowerment to do their own displays. So kudos to the CA team, because I'm a big fan of this new interface. The one thing about the new interface that you should note is that you can't actually edit a dashboard in the new interface. You have to still build the dashboard using the workstation client in order to be able to view it in the WebView. So, so that actually wraps up this little demonstration of reporting in APM. I wanted to share. Oops, share. Wrong presentation. Wanted to share with you a couple of comments. You know, we've got some YouTube demonstrations online of the kinds of things that we do with our integrations to SharePoint. You know, the richness of dashboarding is available both in, as I said, in SharePoint and in other products like Business Objects. You know, with that, I'll close and ask if anybody's got any questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to ask an audio question, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Your first question comes from the line of Bryant Myers.
Hey, this is Brent Myers with Disney. I was just wondering what the performance impact is compared to the workstation, command line workstation, doing a direct SQL call.
Well, that's a great question, really. Performance impact of data extraction is a challenge for all organizations, especially if you're querying all of your collectors through the MOM. One of the things that I recommend to my to the organizations that I work with is to do data extracts individually on the collectors, and then pool that data externally, so you're not trying to run that all in a single thread through the MOM, in a particular nightly run. Nothing is free, so data extracts are expensive, and the best solution is, as we've been doing. IT has been struggling with reporting extracts for as long as anybody's been doing IT, and this is no different. So the answer is really your mileage will vary. Next question.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to ask a question, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Your next question comes from the line of Steve Oak. Steve, your line is open.
Thank you. Hi, Steve. I'm sorry, I just got in late and I didn't get to see your whole presentation yet. But one question on the WebView. We use the min-max and the ability to save to an to a CSV file from the workstation. Our system performance engineering use it quite a bit. Is there any way of seeing min-max in WebView, or do you know if there is plans to add that capability?
Hi guys, it's Mark. Steve, I can take that question. Yeah, so currently we don't support in the 9.5X release. We don't support the min-max in the WebView. We've certainly heard customers loud and clear. It's something that we missed. As part of the migration, we're going to continue to migrate a lot of these rich capabilities. Min-max is the top actually widget that we need to re-include in the WebView, and that will be available planned for the 9.7 release.
Okay, cool. That's all I need to have. People have been asking, and I've said, well, I'll maybe put a suggestion in the community, but when I saw that we were talking about WebView, I said, oh, I better go just ask, because we've got the people there that may know.
Makes
cool.
sense.
That's all I need to know is because how about the ability to save as an XML, as a CSV, export the graph like we can in the workstation?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's going to make the list yet. I do have a survey, an ongoing survey for some of the workstation migration. I think it has been posted on the community. I will make sure that that it is reposted. But these are all the types of migrations of the widgets and everything else from workstation to WebView are listed there. So please take the time and vote for what you would prioritize based on how you use the workstation, so that we get the right priority of items into the web. Yeah.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to ask a question, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad.
Sorry, there was a question around the Liberty profile. For some reason, we can't send a response through the Q&A. I don't seem to have access, and Keith doesn't seem to have access as well. Ultimately, we do not support the IBM Liberty profile in the 9.5.5 release, but we are looking at supporting it in a follow-up release.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to ask a question, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. And there are no further questions at this time.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Mark, for presenting today. There's a poll up here rating the value of our topic today, so if you could fill that out, we'd appreciate it, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes today's conference. You may now disconnect.